Hi, this is Jossum Podcast. Today is August 9th, which happens to be the 71st anniversary of Nagasaki, which actually I think will be relevant later on in this podcast. It is about 1 o'clock p.m. This is our first podcast on on the topic of what else but Donald Trump.
Very fitting, very fitting.
Right. So, let's start with what were your first impressions? What were your first thoughts when Donald Trump announced that he was running for president?
Well, for me personally, at first I didn't really care about him. Then when you dive a little deeper and you see everything he is, his personality, everything he's done, you realize that the future of America could be really screwed. And when I first saw him, I just thought he was this rich, white, bratty, arrogant guy. But obviously things have changed.
I mean, honestly, I've never even heard of him until this campaign started. I remember watching his first speech about the Mexicans being rapists and stuff, and I don't know. I think a lot of other people in Canada also compared him to Rob Ford because if you remember, Rob Ford also had the he also said a lot of controversial things, racist, sexist, homophobic things, and that's what I thought at first. I didn't expect him. Did you expect him to get this far? I didn't
Yeah.
necessarily expect him to get this
Well, the
far.
core difference between Donald Trump and Rob Ford was that Rob Ford actually won and became the mayor of Toronto.
And I feel like Rob Ford, he may have had his issues, but deep down he cared about the people. He has
He
this
wasn't
famous.
he wasn't arrogant.
He had this famous thing
He
about
was
returning every constituent phone call, right? So
yeah.
he's doing this for the people. Donald Trump, from what I've seen in in this entire election, is doing it for himself. He's a narcissist.
The thing with this campaign is that America still has hope. You don't have to vote Donald Trump in. Whereas Rob Ford is already in.
Well, I mean,
And
he's gone anyways, but
yeah, but
and
like
to be fair, he didn't really hurt the city that much.
yeah, and the thing with Rob Ford, he's not like a mogul. He doesn't have all the power in the world. It's just for the city of Toronto, and he's not cocky and arrogant. Like he's not about himself, I don't think, and he connects at a deeper level with the people, I feel, than Donald Trump does. He
But
comes he comes from a different background.
yeah, but well, I mean, you say that we don't have to vote Donald Trump in to be president. If you look, a lot of people don't really like the other option either of Hillary Clinton, and there are a lot of people that feel like Trump is the better candidate compared to Clinton, despite his like his issues, because they think that he's not part of the establishment, he's not corrupt. You could argue that that he is corrupt. I don't know.
At this point, you're just choosing the lesser of two
I
evils. I
mean,
don't even know how these two people can rise to the top and become the only two options you can choose for.
well, I mean, no one, as we said earlier, no one really expected Trump to get this far. When he started running, everyone thought he was just a joke. They're like, he's not gonna win at all. Then he went into first place in the polls. They're like, he's not gonna win a single primary. Guess what? He won most of the primaries. He's a nominee now. And there are people who still say he's not going to be president, including Obama himself, who says that he believes Trump will not be president. But I think the issue is if people didn't take him seriously at the start when they needed to, and now like he is one step away from becoming the president of the United States.
Do you think at this point Donald Trump is getting the joke vote? So the people that don't really care who's gonna win, Hillary or Trump, do you think they'll just go in and vote Donald Trump just for the jokes and not realize the actual repercussions that it could handle?
Um, as I said earlier, I feel like a lot of people that vote for Trump actually do believe he is the better candidate.
I just feel like there's that demographic, like the 20-year-old, like young adult class who don't really care what's going on, versus like the 40-year-old, like middle aged, middle class who actually care about their future in this country. And the 20-year-olds, like I feel like they just don't really like understand politics and they don't really care. They're more focused about themselves, what they want to do with their futures. And Donald Trump is just a joke to them. If they can make an impact in voting Donald Trump, I think it's just better for their entertainment purposes.
Well, I mean, uh, if you remember the Brexit, because this is an interesting thing that the people found. A lot of like, no one expected the Leave side to actually win, right? And after the Leave side won, even a lot of people who voted Leave were kind of shocked, and there were a lot of people who sort of admitted that they didn't actually want to leave, but they felt the government wasn't listening to them. They wanted to like vote Leave to sort of scare the government a bit, and if the government's like, oh my God, Leave, so many people voted Leave, we should probably listen to the people. So they were sort of voting as a sort of in a way it's like a protest vote. It's like a scare tactic in a way. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. This might be the case with Trump, in the sense that some people might vote for Trump, not necessarily as a joke, but like sort of scare other people into saying, "Oh my God, look at this person who can be so successful." And I feel like Brexit can be it can serve as a warning to Americans, a not to take this vote lightly, and b to like actually vote for the candidate that they believe is the best candidate.
Yeah, and the thing with the Brexit and this election is that in the Brexit, there is a chance where you can take back the vote and redo what you've done. Whereas in this American election, if you vote Trump in, that's it.
Well, I mean,
He's your president.
You could argue with that. You could say like, what if he gets, I don't know, what if he, I don't know, gets impeached or something? Like, I don't know.
That's only if he does something.
I feel like this is unlikely, but I feel like if, say, Trump does win, and every single person, both in the U.S. government and like other world leaders, just flat out refuse to work with him, he might be forced to step down or be forced out.
I guess, but like when has that ever happened? We can't bank on that.
I know.
If you make this choice, you're probably stuck with Trump for 4 years. Okay, but moving on.
Yes, let's talk about what might actually happen if Trump wins. Because I think there are two scenarios, and really they're kind of polar opposites. Because if you look at him, Trump, he's the president. The Constitution puts a lot of limits on the president's power because
especially in a democracy.
The founding fathers knew that if a dictatorship happens, bad things can happen.
Yeah.
So Trump has all these crazy ideas. For example, to build the wall or to deport all Muslims, whatever. But for most of these things, he can't do them by himself. He needs to get the approval of Congress. And
exactly.
You look at like a large percentage of the American people oppose him. A large number of Republicans who dominate the Congress right now oppose his ideas. So I don't think they're gonna let him go through with these things. So
yeah, like look at the situation right now. Like Obama has all these ideas that he wants to put into action, but Congress is always against him, right? He can't do anything. And really, like Obama is a much better president than Trump would ever be. That's what I'm saying right now. And if Trump is as flashy and as arrogant as he's gonna be, and he's gonna come up with all these ideas that are gonna be far-fetched, even the people from his own party might not even support Donald Trump.
So I feel like this is, in a way, this is a good thing in the sense that even if he does win, it probably won't be the end of the world. So we can like take a sigh of relief.
We have to hope in the good people.
But then that doesn't mean that it's okay to elect Donald Trump because he's still a very offensive character. The fact, just simply electing him, even if he doesn't do anything bad, the fact that you've elected such an offensive character,
it speaks a lot about your country.
Yes.
Like what they're thinking, what's going on in your country. He's going to be the face of your country on the international stage. Everyone's going to recognize your country by that. And you don't want America to go through a Trump era. That's not what you want.
Yeah, well, I guess that's the best case scenario. Let's talk about the worst case scenario, where if, let's say, he actually does do things. Because, like I did mention earlier that the president doesn't have a lot of power, but he does have some power. And one of those things that he can do by himself without the approval of anyone else is launching nuclear weapons.
That's a scary fact.
Yes, and you look at what Trump has said in the past. He refuses to like rule out using nuclear weapons in Europe. he wants countries like Saudi Arabia to get to like obtain their own nuclear weapons. Like he he apparently there's this. I heard this on the news. There was like a security advisor or someone that Trump met, and he kept on asking him about nuclear weapons. Trump seems to he doesn't seem to understand the idea that these are weapons of mass destruction that can destroy the world. I don't know. Maybe he's watched too many war movies. I don't know. I'm just speculating here.
Well, Donald Trump has always been in power. He's had the money, he's had the power. I think just that personality going into like a president role is not good for your country because they feel like they can't do any wrong. They feel like they're successful. They feel like they can do anything. They don't really think about the repercussions of their actions. Because usually, when you're so rich and you mess up, say you make a bad investment in a company or a bad like you buy real estate that goes down, that tanks, you can usually recover because of all the money you have. But the president role doesn't work that way. Like if you make a major mistake, if you make a major mistake on the international scene or on the domestic level, either your citizens pay or your entire country pays. Like if you say, for example, make a bad decision as the president, you're gonna use taxpayers' money to repay for that. If you end up using a nuke, launching a nuke incorrectly and causing controversy, your entire country suffers a damage to its image. And right now, America is a superpower of the world, right? But we've seen just how easily that can change. And I don't think you want to even run the risk of having Donald Trump have this power to influence everything that your country is up until this point.
Absolutely. I think he could do a lot of damage for America, like for decades, really. If he, I mean, let's just say he doesn't start World War III, which would destroy the world. His some of his policies, if they do end up happening, it could really damage America for a long time, or even just the fact that he won the election. And if you look at the kind of people that support him, the white supremacists, those kind of like racist people. And he said at the convention that he's the voice of the people. These are the people that he's given a voice to, and their views have been legitimized because now a presidential nominee is saying the things that these racist people are saying. I think it could spark or revive a lot of the these kinds of groups in America. And if the president has these views, then these groups of people, they could have a lot more influence in American society than they do now. They could affect society in ways that they aren't affecting society right now. Like this could be, I think, the start of a lot more divisive America, where decades of race, like fixing race relations and all that stuff, could just be thrown away in one election if Trump wins.
And right now, you have to understand that if Donald Trump gets elected, this is a lot of hypotheticals, right? We're saying
Mhm.
if he gets elected. Right now, he's not leaving the polls, right? Um, the thing is, it can be a catalyst. It can be you can open a door for many more hypothetical joke presidential candidates. It can like lead to Kanye winning in 2020.
Yeah.
If people see, oh, Donald Trump can be a decent or like Donald Trump can be elected as a president, it might like snowball into more like joke candidates, and as I said, it can lead to the downfall of America.
But in another way, if Trump wins and they see how bad he is, it could lead people to take elections more seriously in the future. So if Kanye runs in 2020, people they learn the lessons from 2016. They learn the lesson about supporting someone like Trump, and it could help people realize we can't support someone like Kanye. So I think it could actually, in if you look at it another way, it could benefit the more serious candidates and lead to, more serious candidates being elected and people paying more attention and taking this seriously.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. But do you even want to run the risk of having Donald Trump in office? That's the question. Because as we can, as we've seen across his presidential campaign, there's been a whole lot of scandals that have happened that really make us question what the hell this guy is doing.
I mean, it's this. I cannot understand this sometimes. I just don't understand why people still support him after all these things that they said. Uh, I asked the question: are these people all racist? That seems to be, or bigoted. That seems to be the only reason they can still support him after all these things that Trump has said.
In a democracy, who you elect into office is usually who best represents your opinions, who best represents what you want for the country, who best represents your political views. If Donald Trump is the person, the candidate that represents your views the best, we all need a reality check. We all do.
Hmm. I mean, if you watch there's a show called Last Week Tonight on HBO, and John Oliver was talking about this. How he said the reason that Trump is able to get away with all this is because he didn't just say one controversial thing. He said so many that, each of the individual things that he said doesn't really hurt him anymore.
What was the analogy he gave again?
The bed of nails. If you step on one nail, it hurts you, but if you step on 1,000 nails, then you're fine because all the nails are spread out. Your feet aren't really being poked.
It just raises your entire level above, or in this case below, and you like raise the morale, you lower the morality of this presidential campaign.
Yes.
Well, let's start by going through some of these actual scandals, if you would.
All right.
And we can see like just where this guy's head's at, and like we can just like revert back and see what the hell has been happening over the past year and a half.
Okay, let's start with the first thing that he said about Mexicans being rapists. You remember the speech, right?
Of course. How can you forget that?
This is really a theme that in Trump's campaign of blaming other people for the problems. Because the truth is, and this happened, in the UK with Brexit, a lot of people, because right now America, if you tell people America is better than it has been in decades, that is true as a whole, like as for the nation as a whole. But there are a lot of people within America, low income people who feel they've been marginalized by society, by the current government, or by whatever. There are a lot of people who, if you say, America's economy is amazing right now, if you're poor, if you're low income, you're not gonna believe that.
And that sucks for you. If the economy is booming and all like the inflation rates are growing, but your salary's still stuck at the bottom, like it sucks for you. Like,
Yeah.
especially like where we live in Toronto, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a low income family, the raising rate of our economy, especially the house market, sucks for you. Like now, a normal detached house costs over $1 million, and if you're earning minimum wage, this completely sucks for you. And to add on top of it, you're being discriminated against by your own potential president. How hopeless do you feel?
So if you're someone like this, what happens is you have all these perceived problems in your life, and you wonder, where all these problems coming from, and you're gonna want someone to blame for how bad your life is, right? And immigrants seem to always be the first people that you will blame because if for example you can't find a job because say there aren't enough jobs for people, and then now there are immigrants coming in, so now there's even more people that are competing for the same number of jobs. You're not going to be happy about that.
Exactly.
So that's why I feel immigrants have become a huge target for the Trump voter base.
So so going back to Donald Trump on this, do you think this is actually a decent campaign strategy?
I feel like if he's able to tap into the anger, because a lot easier to tap into people's anger than it is to tap into people's optimism.
Yeah.
So if they're already angry about their situation, and now he's telling them, first of all, why their life sucks so much, and how we're gonna make it not suck. He's 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 like giving them someone to blame, and now
Yeah, and the thing is with Hillary Clinton, she's not giving them that option, so it becomes easier to support Donald Trump in that sense. In that sense that you know exactly what he stands for. You know exactly like what he's against. And if you share this view, you're gonna be with him.
And the thing is, also, a lot of people, because the majority of Americans are, white Christians, right? And they feel like America's always been like this for a couple hundred years, and now, it's the same in America. It's like this in Canada as well, where in the last century, there's been a lot of new immigrants coming in, different cultures coming in, and there are a lot of people who feel like America should be the white, Christian, whatever society that it is. And if you have all these different cultures coming in that are different from what your country's always been, you feel kind of threatened. You feel like your way of life is being threatened. And you feel like they're not like true Americans in a sense.
Well, okay, let me ask you this from a solely political perspective, not from any sort of racism idea. Is this a good strategy? Because you're isolating these Mexicans or like these other immigrants, but they form only a small minority of the American population, and the possibility of them retaliating is very low. Let's just say even 50% of them come out and vote against you. Is that even a significant amount of votes that could alter your entire campaign? Whereas by putting them down, you might be gaining more votes than you would lose.
Well, I feel like, well, first of all, most minority groups have always supported the Democratic Party because they've always been the more sort of progressive party. If you're gonna like isolate them, they're not gonna vote for you. There are a lot of white people.
But how many actually vote? How much of the minority actually votes?
I feel like
I feel like you will win more votes than you would lose.
no, I feel like definitely you'll attract the people that agree with your views about immigrants. So you'll attract people who are more like right. You'll attract the right wing, as I talked about earlier, the people that Trump has sort of given a voice to. You'll attract those kind of people. They'll all vote for you. You'll attract the people who feel like their life sucks and someone's causing all the problems.
Yes.
So you do attract a lot of people, but you also isolate a lot of people too.
But are those people that you've isolated gonna vote for you anyways?
No, if they're not like, as I said earlier, like most of those people would vote for the Democrats.
So this is actually not a completely bad idea.
I guess.
If you look at it that way, but obviously from a moral perspective, very wrong. That's why it's classified as a scandal.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good segue into our second point.
Oh yes, another scandal. This is also from very early in his campaign. So if you remember back in 2008, John McCain was a Republican nominee, and he lost to Obama. But McCain served in the Vietnam War. He was a prisoner of war during the war, and Trump came out and said that because he's a prisoner of war, he's not a war hero. And a lot of people got offended at this.
Okay. Contrary to our first point, this is not going to win you any votes. This is just
true.
Completely idiotic.
That's true. And if you look at and that seems to be a big part of his entire campaign so far, just criticizing individuals. Like, I guess if you criticize a group, you might get the votes of the people who hate that group, but criticizing an individual isn't going to get you anywhere, really. I mean, if you look at something else he said, during a Democratic debate, Hillary Clinton was late coming back after a commercial break because she had to use the washroom, and Trump called her disgusting because she had to use the washroom. Like that doesn't make any sense.
That just seems like a low
like
blow.
I'm asking Mr. Trump, do you not use the washroom yourself?
Like you're trying so hard to put down your opposition, and you're
Yeah.
literally jumping on anything she does and trying to criticize it. That just seems like a you're trying too hard. You're trying
Although
too
to
hard,
be
Trump.
fair, a couple days ago there was this thing on the internet where Trump tweeted out a picture of him eating KFC with a knife and fork, and people were laughing at him because of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean everyone does it, I guess. I guess in this election, if you're that desperate, anything is fair game. You're gonna attack anyone for any reason. So, really, we shouldn't be surprised that Trump, and in some cases Hillary, has been doing this to their opponents.
The thing with Donald Trump and the person the feeling about him, just like the perception about him, like just in general, the type of the type of aura he gives off is that anything he says about Hillary Clinton is now going to be news. It's going to be front page news. Anything he says, it's going to get out there with like how scandalous he's been, and like some people might even find it funny when he says these kind of things because he seems so arrogant. He seems to live in his own bubble, and when he says this, it sounds funny to people. Whereas if Hillary were to say the exact same thing about Donald Trump, I don't think it'll be taken as well.
I think it'd be taken in the sense that, Donald Trump says all these things, and you're trying to say because Donald Trump says all these things, you can't vote for him because he's a bad person. So if you're Hillary Clinton or anyone else, and you start using Trump's rhetoric, you start doing the things Trump does, a lot of people will think that you're a hypocrite, for example.
Of course, but just from a reception standpoint, most people would just feel like Hillary would be more serious.
I just feel like because Trump has done this so much, they feel like this is what Trump does. So when he does
people take it as a joke.
They're just like, oh well, that's just Donald Trump.
And some
Who
people,
cares?
some people find it funny too when he says these kind of things. But if Hillary says it, honestly, people will take it seriously because she doesn't say much of this. And again, going back to the analogy, like the bed of 1,000 nails, it doesn't seem as bad. So in a way, like Donald Trump has like gained this competitive advantage over Hillary Clinton.
Mm. I mean, it is possible to win an election without resorting to personal attacks. That's what here in Canada last year, the Conservatives, you remember, were attacking Justin Trudeau for everything, and Trudeau didn't, he didn't have a single attack ad at anyone else.
Yeah.
All his ads were about himself and how good he is. Mm-hmm. He won the election.
Well,
obviously, it seems to be different in America.
But the way Donald Trump is going about this, it also like provides him like some space to move around when he gives his speeches, because it's not uncommon to make a mistake when you're giving a speech. Mm-hmm. You might just resort to something or like blurt out something that's like not what you stand by or what's not politically correct. If Donald Trump ends up like having a blunder, people will just see it as something else he does normally. But for Hillary Clinton, if she ends up doing something like this, if she ends up messing up, even if she didn't mean it, it can end up hurting her a lot more than it could hurt Trump.
Mm-hmm. I've always thought of a question, which is, does Donald Trump actually stand by everything he says, or is this just to get votes? Because, he's a populist. And, populists, they'll say whatever people want to hear. So I ask the question sometimes, does Trump actually believe what he says, or is he just saying this so people can vote for him?
Mm-hmm. That's a big question. That's a big question. Okay, why don't you say we move on to his talk about a Mexican wall?
All right. I don't know what else there is to say that hasn't already been said about this wall. If you're just ignoring the racism part of it, why it's it's bad in that sense. It's just not going to work in the sense that how are you going to build this wall? I mean, you're building like a wall. You're going to need a lot of money.
Well, he said he's going to make the Mexican government pay for it.
That's not going to happen. Why would they pay for something that's, hurts them, I guess, in a way? Why would they do that? Imagine if Canada built a wall on our southern border to keep Trump out, for example. Do you think Trump would pay for that wall? No. Why would the Mexicans pay for this wall? he's not. He's gonna have to pay for
It just
himself.
tells me that he's not logical. He's not a logical thinker.
No, I saw this video. It was really interesting because the reason why he's building the wall is because of illegal immigrants, right? That are crossing the borders. And I mean, we could spend a whole day talking about the fact that most illegal immigrants actually come in legally and they stay longer than they're allowed to. But let's just say he does build this wall. It's gonna be like, how is it? That's not gonna actually stop people from coming over. They can, for example, use a ladder or dig a tunnel, for example.
Yeah, like a wall is not really okay. Hypothetically, if you were to build this wall and you were to build it all across the entire border at a decent height, like what is a decent height? Like 30 feet?
I don't know.
Like if you put it at 10 feet, people can just hop it.
Yeah, like
People
people.
get
And if
steps
you're
to
if you're
hop
that
over it.
determined to like illegally cross the border, you're gonna find a way.
Yeah, and these people want to come to America really badly. So, like, it has to be at least like 30 feet, hypothetically. Let's just say it's 30 feet, and it goes all the way across the Mexican American border. That's gonna take you so much time, so much money. I don't feel like it's a feasible thing to do as president. I don't think he's gonna follow through on this.
No, but I feel like the wall, even if it doesn't actually stop people, the fact that it sort of makes people feel safer is good enough for a lot of people.
There's so much more ways that you can do that, though.
No, because if you have a wall on the southern border, even if it doesn't actually stop anyone, you think it's gonna stop people, and that itself gives people comfort.
Well, the entire problem is that you're perceiving Mexicans as dangerous. Like why? It's things like this. It's like things like Donald Trump does and says that convinces people about this. It's a false fear that he's creating.
Yes, but it doesn't. People don't care because, it makes sense to them, and it gives them some comfort.
So you're saying people would be willing to have their tax money used on this wall?
Yes,
If it makes
because
them
they
feel
feel
safer.
like
What about
this-
the people living in New York? Would they care about this wall?
people that support Donald Trump would, because they feel that it will keep America. They feel that it will keep America safer, even though it doesn't.
I feel like the only people that would care, like directly, would and be willing to allow their tax money to be used on this would be like New Mexico, Arizona, those kind of states down south where it actually could impact them.
Yes, but if you're a Trump supporter up in like Washington State, you're still gonna support this wall because
But
obviously-
oftentimes when you support a political candidate, if you're a diehard Trump supporter, yes. But most of the people who vote for Donald Trump support some of his policies, probably more policies than of Hillary's and the party. I don't think they would support this wall idea.
Well, I mean, who knows? Like, one issue, sometimes it might, influence who people vote for, but other times, one issue, if there's 1,000 issues, if this is the one thing that you disagree with, if you agree with everything else Trump does and says, you're not going to care about the wall issue.
But then again, Congress would not let this happen.
That's true.
No
Congress
matter
will not
what.
approve the funding.
No matter what.
But the fact that he's made this promise, because, I mean, when do politicians ever keep the promises? The fact that he's made this promise already is good enough for a lot of people.
it speaks volumes.
I mean, at
what
least...
this campaign's about.
Yes. I mean, all right, let's move on.
Let's move on. We spent too much time on the wall.
We've already
there's been enough talk about that.
Yes, I think. Oh yeah, the big one that I think is going way too far was accusing Ted Cruz's dad of somehow being involved in the killing of JFK. Because if you remember, there was a photo that I forgot the newspaper, but it's not even a newspaper. It's a tabloid, which already speaks a lot about how reliable this is. But there was a photo of Lee Harvey Oswald. They confirmed that it is Lee Harvey Oswald, and he is with, a man who appears to be, a white middle-aged man, and it's too blurry to identify who this man is. But this tabloid claims that it's Ted Cruz's dad, who, if you know, immigrated to the United States from Cuba, and the newspaper claims that it's Ted Cruz's dad, and they say that because he's standing beside Lee Harvey Oswald, is he somehow involved in the assassination of JFK? And Trump, I guess after finding out about this, started attacking Ted Cruz about this. This is low to a level.
What? Like what?
This is low to a level that is low even for the Trump campaign.
What?
But then again, I'm not surprised because Trump doesn't care about the truth. He'll say whatever comes out of his mouth or whatever's in his mind.
It doesn't even matter what he's saying at this point. What the hell?
I mean, he'll say whatever. He doesn't care. He doesn't. I don't think he checks his facts to make sure they're true before he says it. He'll say whatever it is that people want to hear. That'll get him votes, or they'll just cause a stir, I guess.
This is a guy I don't know how you can come up with that conclusion and have the guts to say that. You've never seen this in the history of any presidential election. You always need the proof. And the whole like all of Western journalism is built like all credibility is built upon proof that you can give. Why the hell would he make this statement? I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, he's going after Ted Cruz, who was at the time his opponent, and I guess he felt that this was a juicy thing to say. He felt that this was a bombshell in a way.
But couldn't this backfire so easily on him?
Well, obviously it hasn't.
It hasn't. That's the magic of Donald Trump. Nothing backfires on him. Nothing affects his support.
I mean, he once said that he could shoot someone in the middle of Fifth Avenue and not lose any votes. He's saying that he could kill people and still not lose any voters. This is how much Donald Trump has been able to get away with these kinds of things. I can imagine if he actually kills someone, he won't lose many votes if he's still allowed to stay in the race. He won't lose many. He'll lose some, but he won't lose a lot of voters if he does something that crazy.
the Donald Trump lovers, supporters are much more invested than the Hillary Clinton supporters.
Yeah.
They support his views. And this has got to remind you of every other time in history where support for such an extreme leader has been so unwavering.
Well, to be fair, they have compared Trump to Hitler. Do you think that's a fair comparison?
I don't want to make any controversial statements. I don't feel like it's the same level as what Hitler had received. Like back then, Hitler was like literally the only person that people were gonna vote for. He was controlling every other political leader. At this point, at least there's Clinton that might be able to, win this over him, and there's Congress to limit him, and the whole like idea of democracy that limits him.
Yeah, but this idea of
I feel like if you put Trump in Hitler's like position, like with his environment, there might be something of like that brewing. But I don't think there's gonna be any of like the results that Hitler had created.
I don't know. Is there anyone else that you feel like would be a more fair comparison from history? Well, I mean, we've already sort of mentioned Rob Ford, although we sort of debunked that.
Yeah. I think we can't say for sure until we see what he does if he becomes president.
Mm-hmm.
We can only speculate from what he said he's going to do and how he's been acting during this presidential campaign. So I think it's too early to say. But all I'm saying is that it's kind of scary that if he does get elected, he can work with Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, like all these leaders that are so controversial in the world, and he can become one of them, and he can lead the most powerful country in the world.
That's true. Well, I guess as you said, we won't know until November. Until then, everything that we say is just speculation.
Agreed.
So, yeah, I think this is a good time to end this podcast.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. If it's just us two in the future, listen to ourselves. Mm-hmm. We don't know how this is gonna work, but this is our first podcast, so thank you for staying through this, and we'll see you next time. Bye. This is Jocelyn Podcasts.
Bye.